Friends, how's it going? You good? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Gimel of Masechta Shabbis. I'm sure that many of you will be happy to know that we are going to go an entire daf today without mentioning Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim. Yes, thank God. Well, yeah, thank God for everything, right? Alright, Bayomu Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. In the future we're going to say everything is good. We like Rishus HaYachid, we like Rishus HaRabim. We also don't, well, I shouldn't say we don't like it, we like not having it as well. Okay, friends, let's do it. We got a cool day today, here in Perek HaBoneh. So, I'm talking about drilling holes, knocking on anvils, weeding, not that kind of weeding. Okay, and what else? Writing, things like that. Friends, let's do it. All the way at the bottom of Kuf Beis Amud Beis, the last two words on the page. Tashma, come in here. Okay, top of Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph. Hakodeach Kolshu Chayev. So our Mishnah had said that somebody who drills a hole, even if it's just one little hole, but he drills it in the wall, he's going to be Chayev. Okay, now, if you remember yesterday, our machlokas, a few machlokas in between Rav and Shmuel. Rav had said, Rav was, maintaining that these things were chayiv for boneh, and Shmuel was saying that they're chayiv for makah b'patish. Now, one of the things that we had discussed was putting holes in the sides of a chicken coop. So now Rav had said that for putting holes in the side of a chicken coop, you're chayiv because of boneh, that it's part of building. Okay. Now Shmuel said that putting a hole in the side of a chicken coop is not boneh. The reason why you're chayiv over there is because it's makah b'patish. It's the final thing that you're doing on the chicken coop before it's ready for business. Is putting those holes in the side so that the bad smells can get out. Now, what happens when you drill? When you drill something in the wall, you drill a hole in the wall so you can then, fill it in. So it's certainly not makah b'patish, right? Because it sort of implies you're drilling in order so that you can then do one more step, which is to then fill it in with something. So clearly, it's not the final thing that you're going to be doing. So, whereas as binyan, so it could be considered part of binyan. So let's see, friends, let's see. So, Bishlam al-Rav, so I understand Rav, who said that putting holes in a chicken coop is considered part of building, can be considered part of constructing the chicken coop. Well, so I understand why the Mishnah would say that drilling you'd be chayiv for a kolshu. For the same reason why when you put the holes in the wall of the chicken coop, you're chayiv, because putting holes in the walls is considered part of building. Well, then certainly also when you're drilling a hole in the wall so that you could then, put something into the wall. So then it's going to be, Rav would say that's also part of boneh. Shmuel, lav gmar melachu. But according to Shmuel, who said that putting a hole in the wall of the chicken coop is not considered boneh, it's not considered part of construction. The only reason why you're chayiv there was because it was the final thing that you're going to be doing to the chicken coop before it's ready to, be used. So it's makah b'patish, but over here, clearly drilling is not makah b'patish because necessarily there's another step that you're going to have to do, which is when you fill in the hole that you just drilled. So according to Shmuel, why would the Mishnah say that you're chayiv for drilling? So achav ma'eskinon tibazoi b'ramtza defarzla v'shavke b'gave da'anu gmar melacha. Okay, so according to Shmuel, this is talking about where you take an iron nail, and you nail it into the wall. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about where you take a drill and you drill a hole, and now you have a hole that you have to fill in. It's talking about where you take a nail and you nail it into the wall so you can hang a picture. Okay? So in that case, it is the final, you're not doing anything after that. Okay, you take the nail, you nail it into the wall, and you're done. So therefore, that would be considered makah b'patish, and that's where you're chayiv. That's the drilling that we're talking about in the Mishnah that you're chayiv for. Weiter. The Mishnah had said that this is the following rule. So anybody who does on Shabbos some kind of melacha that is long lasting, or that is considered to be a complete melacha, so then you're going to be chayiv. So whenever we say Zeh HaKlal, this is the rule, it's always coming to include other things, right? This is the rule, i.e., here's the rule, apply it to any situation that you want. So what is this coming to include? What is the situation that we can apply this rule to that we can include? Very exciting. What it's coming to include is, let's say you have some kind of block of, I don't know, some kind of, does it say some kind of clay or something? Now, normally you would you would hollow out into this block of clay, some kind of hole the size of a kav, okay, that you'd be able to, I don't know, maybe make some kind of receptacle that's the size of a kav. But you didn't do that. You made a receptacle the size of a, 3/4 of a kav. So even though it's not, you didn't complete the malacha that you wanted to do, normally you would have kept on going, but because sometimes people do just leave it at that, at 3/4 of a kav size, so it's considered malacha miskayemis, right? Almost like, right, as we're going to see later on, shem mishimin, right? If you're writing the word shimin, but you only write shem in and of itself is already, something. So therefore you're going to be chayiv. So here also, even though you didn't necessarily do the full thing, but it's considered miskayemis. It's considered something that it's enough that people would use. So therefore you're going to be chayiv for it on Shabbos. Rashbag Omer, says Reb Shimon Gamliel, Hamake b'kurnis ala seden chule. Somebody who is taking some kind of a hammer and he's knocking on an anvil. Okay? So we said in the mission that you're chayiv. What are you chayiv for? What are you chayiv for? What are you doing? You're taking a hammer, you're knocking on an anvil. What are you accomplishing? Why should you be chayiv for that? Micah Ovid asks the Gemara, what's he doing? Rav Yosef Damri Tarvayu. So Rabba and Rav Yosef say, Mipnei Shemayim as Yadav. Oh. So Rabba and Rav Yosef say that it's because what he's chayiv for is that he's training his hand. He's training his hand. Ki'ilu. Sure, right now he's doing something that seems pointless, right? He's taking a hammer and he's knocking it on an anvil. There's nothing on the anvil. It's not actually doing anything, right? Kind of. The thing is, he might not be doing anything right now, but he's practicing his hit, right? He's working on his form to get that good hit. So then in the big leagues, when he's got something to hit, he's gonna hit it right. Okay? Fine. Kashaba b'nei Rachba. The b'nei Rachba were confused. They were not convinced. I don't know, who are these Bnei Rachba? I don't know, but apparently it's hard to get things past them. What if I'm like walking down the street on Shabbos and I see an artist and the artist is like, making something. So am I chayiv for like watching him because I'm learning? And the implication seems to be, no, you wouldn't be chayiv for that. Well, if that's the case, so then why would you be chayiv for just hitting an anvil? So Amar Ella Abai v'Rav Adam Tarvai, rather Abai and Rav both say, Shekem Rad de Tase Mishkan Osen Kain. Oh, here we go. So because the people who were in the Mishkan, who would bang out the golden coverings of the krashim. So the krashim were made out of, what were they made out of? Eitz erez? Maybe they were made out of cedar wood, maybe? But then they would cover them in gold. So they would have to thin out these gold strips of metal. And the way they would do it is they would hit the metal 3 times, and then they would hit the anvil without the metal once, in order to like make sure that the hammer is not getting sharp at all. It's going to stay smooth. Because if there are any, points in the hammer, it could puncture these very thin sheets of gold that they're making. So therefore what they would do is they would hit the gold 3 times and hit the anvil once in order to make sure that the hammer remains smooth. And Rashi says apparently that's what the whether it's the jewelers or the people who would make money, whatever it is, but people would work with very thin metals. They would do that even in Rashi's days. I don't know, does anybody have an experience with like making jewelry? Like, is that like a thing when you're making jewelry that you do these kind of hits with the hammer that you're not hitting the actual jewelry, you're just hitting some other thing to make sure that that the hammer remains smooth and doesn't pierce anything that we don't want to pierce. Tananam Yachi, we also in a price like this, Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, Afamake bekurnas ala seden b'shas melacha. So we learn in a price where Reb Shimon Gamliel is saying that even somebody who hits with his hammer on the anvil while he's working, chayiv shkem radzi tasi mishkanos kain, because in the Mishkan, the workers who would be banging out the gold plates for the crushim, they would hit the anvil and zeu. So therefore you'd be chayiv if you do that on Shabbos. But Davka, the Mishnah says b'shas malacha, right, at the time of malacha. So if you would just go up to an anvil with a hammer, I think maybe it's taka, Cornus is taka, a sledgehammer, and then you just hit the anvil, it doesn't sound like you would be chayiv. Davka in the context of work, because that's actually part of the work. You hit the gold 3 times, you hit the anvil once. Okay. Says the Mishnah, chorej kolshu, somebody who plows even a kolshu, somebody who plows even a little bit. Hamanachesh, somebody who, weeding, I think. So he's like removing weeds from the garden or whatever. Somebody who removes like dead wood from a tree, or somebody who's removing stuff from, what was it, endives or something. But also these are all like pruning kind of things, right? You remove either whether there's too much, so you're kind of removing things so that so that the ground is not overwhelmed with trying to support everything, or there's dead stuff that you're removing, but also the point being so that the what you're trying to grow will grow healthier. So kol shu chayiv, even if you do just a kol shu, you're going to be chayiv. Malaket eitzim, somebody who gathers wood. So I think he's actually taka cutting down the wood, isn't he? I think he's like collecting wood like from a tree, I think. So even the sake and kosher, yeah, of course. Meaning, so if it's to fix the tree or the ground, so then you'll be chayiv for kosher. Meaning, if it's wood that's lying on the ground, so then you're not assisting anything. It's not connected to the ground. The point is that if you're like removing wood from a tree in order to improve the growing of the tree, or to improve the soil, so that it doesn't have as much to have to provide nutrients for, so then you'll be chayiv for kosher. In the hesek. But if you're collecting this wood so you could burn it, well then kadei levashel beit zakala, will have to be enough, of course. I think this is the 3rd time we've seen this already. Enough wood to be able to cook a chicken egg. Well, to cook a grogeres from a chicken egg, because we're talking about food here, so this year is a grogeres. But it's a chicken egg, because that is the fastest egg to cook. Hamalaket asavim, somebody who's gathering grass. Im the sakin kolshu, if it's to improve, let's say, the other grasses, or to improve the ground, so you'll be chayiv for kolshu. Mevehema kamlo piagadi, as we remember from Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, that if you gather grass for your animals, so then it's enough to fill up the mouth of a kid. Viter. The my chazi, we say that if you plow even a kolshu, so you're chayiv. Why? What purpose does plowing a tiny amount serve? So the Gemara answers, levizra dekara, for one gourd seed. If you plow even just a tiny bit, you can get a gourd seed in there. And zeo, and because you can get a gourd seed in there, it's considered productive, and you're chayiv. The kavasa gabi mishkan, and similarly in the mishkan, shekin roi lekelach echad shal samanin. If you plow just a little bit, it'll be enough to plant one stalk of these herbs that they would use to make dyes. Okay? Hamnachesh v'amikarsem v'amzari, these different types of like pruning. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Hatolesh ulshin, somebody who picks ulashin, endives. V'amzari zradim, or somebody who prunes reeds. Okay? Oh, so that's what Mazarid is. Oops, I think I said endives earlier. That was the reeds. My mistake. Imla achila kigregeris. So if you are plucking these things so you can eat them, whether you want to eat the endives or you want to eat these, these were like edible reeds. Apparently, if you pull them out of the ground when they are small. Oh no, I think they were maybe like shoots of sorts, right? So basically, they would like grow on trees, and then when they were soft, then you can eat them, and when they get a little bit harder, your animals can eat them. When they get harder than that, then you can burn them. Okay? So therefore, so imla achila, so if you're picking them for you to eat, then it's grogeris, of course. Imla v'hema, if it's for your animal, well then it's kimlo piagdi. Imla hesek, if it's to burn, well then of course it's kedei levashel beit zakal. These are all shiurim that we've seen in other places. Im liapos is a karka kol shein. However, if you are plucking these things in order to improve the ground, well then the shear is going to be a kol shein. And this is where things get extremely interesting, friends. Atukulu lo liapos is a karka nenu. But one second. Even if you're like plucking these things to eat, let's say, so the shear is a grogeris, which I think would be the largest shear. But maybe, I don't know. But if you're plucking, let's say, these zradim in order to eat them, so we say the shear is a grogeris. But lemaise, when you pluck these things in order to eat, you're still improving the ground, right? Imagine you go to your field. There's a whole bunch of these reeds that are edible, but there's also a lot of them. So you want to remove some of them, and you want to eat them. But lemaise, by removing them, you're also improving the ground because, you know, it can then the ground can grow, can focus more on the ones that are still planted and make them healthier. So but the point being, shouldn't the shear always essentially be a kol shehu? Because you're chayav for a kol shehu if it's to improve the ground. And even if your intention is to eat it, at the end of the day, you're going to be improving the ground. So, no, isn't it Psik reisha? Let's see, friends, let's see. It's very exciting. Rabbi Yosef Damar Tavai Ba'agam Shanu. Okay, so Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef say, well, we're talking about when you're plucking these reeds from a swamp. And therefore, you know, there's really no point, there's no benefit in improving the other reeds in the swamp, right? Pruning is significant when it's your field and you want to make sure that the things in your field are growing better. So one of the things that you can do is you can remove some of the ones that are currently in the ground, whether because they're dead or whether they're unhealthy or whether you want to eat them, whatever it is. But by removing some of what's planted, it helps and it benefits the rest of the crop because it'll grow better. So, however, and we're saying that the chiyuv there is a kol shehu. And therefore, even if you want to take it out of the ground and eat it, you're still going to be chayav because you're improving the rest of the crop. But what if you're mamish in a swamp? There's no, meaning, you know, you have no intent, it doesn't benefit anybody. It's essentially a pointless activity to prune the reeds of a swamp. I mean, it doesn't, nobody owns it, nobody's relying on it, you know, you're probably just passing by, so you grabbed something, maybe whatever else is going to die there anyways, meaning it's a swamp, it's hefker, it's ownerless, it's really a pointless activity to try to prune the reeds of a swamp. And therefore, Rab and Rabbi Yosef say that because we're talking about in a swamp, that is why the kol shehu pruning shear is irrelevant, even though, sure, technically speaking, you are going to be benefiting the plants that remain, but, you know, that benefit doesn't really benefit anybody. It's essentially a pointless benefit. Abai Omar says, Abai, afilu temu basada. This is where things get very interesting, at least for me. I think it's interesting. Abai says, you can even be talking about a field that belongs to somebody. And yes, by removing these reeds, you are going to be improving the remaining crops. Right? Dilav agam. We're not talking about a swamp. Uchigon, dilo kamichavin. But it's not his intention. It's not his intention, Lemaisa. Right? He's taking some of these reeds. He wants to eat them. Oh, but it's going to improve the remaining crops. It's pruning the field. That's not his intention. Leave him alone. He's not intending for it. But don't Abaye and Rava both agree that Reb Shimon would say that you're chayav when it's a Psik reisha v'lo yamus? Who remembers what a Psik reisha v'lo yamus is? Right? If you remove the head, Psik reisha, if you remove the head v'lo yamus and it won't die, right? Meaning if I say I just want the head of the chicken, so I remove the head from the chicken. What do you mean? You can't just remove a head from a chicken. The chicken's going to die. You're going to be chayav netilas neshama. So, and therefore you're not allowed to do that, even though you just want the chicken. Yeah, but it wasn't my intention to kill it. Who cares? You're going to kill it. There's no way around it. So therefore that's not allowed. So here also, Kilu, I'm just taking these reeds from the field. I want to eat it. You're going to be benefiting the field. It's not my kavanah. Who cares? It's not my kavanah. You're going to be benefiting the field. So listen to what he answers. Lo tzricha dekaved ba'ar dechavre. Wow. So the answer is that it's not his field. It's his friend's field. It's his friend's field. So, sure, he's going to, so he goes to his friend's field. I guess his friend gives him permission, and he takes some of the reeds and he's eating it. Okay? Now, so the shear is going to be a grogeris. What about the fact that he's benefiting the field? So maybe the shear should be a kolshu. Yeah, but it's not his field, so it doesn't benefit him. It benefits somebody else. So it's called a psik reisha de lo nikha. And apparently that would be acceptable. That would be acceptable. Or at least you wouldn't be chayiv, let's say. You wouldn't be chayiv, right? Psik reisha de lo nikha. So now let's think about this for a second. So Abaye seems to be saying, and if I go into my friend's field and I take some of these reeds and I eat them, so the shear is a grogeris. What about the fact that it's benefiting the field, and it is benefiting the field, and it's benefiting my friend, and it's pruning, it's zoreya. So mistama, right? A malacha is happening. So shouldn't the shear be a kolshu, and I should be chayiving for the kolshu? So, and it's a psik reisha. It's definitely happening, and yet we're saying we're pater. Because I'm not benefiting from it, my friend's benefiting from it. So the way I understand it, tell me what you guys think, but it sounds to me like a malacha shenetzricha legufa. Meaning a malacha is happening. How come this guy's allowed to do a malacha? I don't care that he's not getting benefit. If the malacha is happening, right, it's pruning the field, it's a tolada of zoreya, or noteya, whatever it is, I think zoreya. So if the malacha is happening, so that's a problem. I don't care that I'm not benefiting from it, I'm doing a malacha. But it sounds to me like a malacha she'en tzricha legufa that we defined the other day, that a malacha she'en tzricha legufa is when I don't benefit from it, right? Remember, there was legufa and legufa. According to Reb Shimon, he seemed to defining it as whether I get benefit from it or not. And over here, I'm not getting benefit. My friend is getting benefit. So it sounds to me like it's a malacha that's being done, but in a tzricha legufa, right? Sure, I'm pruning the field, but I'm not benefiting from it. Right? Just like, right, when you blow out the flame of the candle in order to preserve the candle from getting ruined by the flame. So sure, I'm doing the malacha, but I'm not benefiting, I'm only doing it to prevent something else from happening. I'm not benefiting from mechabe, right? So here also, my friend's benefiting, I'm not benefiting. It sounds to me like a malacha she'en tzricha legufa, and Reb Shimon says malacha she'en tzricha legufa is pater. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting little thing. Alright, we're getting up to a new Mishnah. This Mishnah is all about writing, which is kind of interesting, I think. So, the Mishnah says, Akosev shtei osius, so somebody writes two letters, okay? Ben bimino, ben bismolo, okay? Whether he writes these two letters with his right hand, whether he writes these two letters with his left hand, okay? Ben mishemechad, ben mishtei shemes, whether he writes, aleph, or whether he writes aleph, beis, right? Shemechad being the same, one letter, Shtei Shemes being two letters, right? So whether he writes aleph, whether he writes aleph beis. Ben mishtei samonios, whether he uses two different inks. He writes one letter with dio, and he writes another letter, as Rashi says, with sikra. Okay? B'chol lashon, in any language, whether it's English, whether it's Hebrew, whether it's something else, chayav. Very good. So I don't know if that means that both letters would be in the same, like what if you write one English letter and one Hebrew letter? I don't know the answer. Maybe it'd be chayiv, I don't know. Reb Yossi says, Reb Yossi, it is interesting. Lo chivu shtei osios ele mishum roshem. Shekach kosvin al karshe amishkan leda ezo ben zugo. This is very interesting. So Reb Yossi says it's not actually about letters. It's not about aleph, it's not about beis. In the Mishkan, what would they do? In the Mishkan, they would write on the beams so that they would know which one was right next to each other, which is also interesting, right? I wonder why it was important to know specifically which beam was next to the other. Why not just, all the beams were the same size. Why do they have to be the same ones? I don't know. Maybe because they connect with each other. Once they're next to each other, they connect to each other. They kind of grow into each other somehow. But in any event, they would write on the beams, the point being that they just have to know which one was next to which. Now, they didn't necessarily have to write 1, 2, 3, 4, which is also interesting because it raises the questions of, what were they writing? Did they have numbers like we know them today? It's interesting that already back then, in the Midbar, way back then, they already had some kind of writing system that they would be able to use to identify, this one goes here and that one goes there. The numbers that we have, aren't those like Arabic numerals or something like that? I assume that they probably came later. I don't know. It's interesting. What were they actually writing on these beams to be able to identify them? But as Reb Yossi points out, I think even a little bit later, that they might not have actually been writing letters per se. They may have just imagined you have two beams right next to each other. Just kind of you just got to make a mark that goes from one beam to the other beam, right? Like a puzzle, right? And then when you're putting them together, you could see if the marks line up. That's really all you had to do. So it wasn't necessarily about letters. It was just about making marks, really. Marks that are meaningful. So Amar Rabbi Yossi, lo chivu shtei osios ela mishum roshen. Right? They weren't chayev for literally writing 2 letters. It's really more about making meaningful marks. Shekach kosven al karshe hamishkan leida ezo ben zugo, because that's how they would write on the beams of the in the Mishkan, to just know which one was next to the other. They didn't necessarily have to be numbers or letters or anything like that. Interesting, the Mishnah doesn't mention numbers either. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Matzinu shem katan mishem gadol. So now Rabbi Yehuda says, we also find that you'll be chayev for writing a smaller name from a bigger name. What does that mean? Shem mishimin mishmuel. Noach minachor, Dan midaniel, Gad migadiel. So if you write Shem from the word Shimon, right? You're going to write Shimon, Shin Mem Ayin Vav Nun, but you only wrote Shem. Well, that's enough. It's a name. It's something. It's a word. Right? Umishmuel. Of course, there's the sefer from the Sachat Shavar, right? The Shem Mishmuel. I believe that's the Sachat Shavar. Rabbi Reichman in YU. You would always give a Shem Mishmuel shir on Thursday night. Yes, he would. Noach Minachor. If you write Noach from Nachor, Dan Mitaniel, Gad Migadil, and all these things says Rabbi Yehuda, you'd be chayev for the smaller amount. Okay. So the Gemara says, one second. The Mishnah said that you're chayev whether you write with your right hand, whether you write with your left hand. So the Gemara says, okay, I understand if you write with your right hand because that's normal. The assumption being that you're a righty. So if you're right-handed, so then writing with your right hand makes sense. But why should you be chayev for writing a letter with your left hand? You don't usually write with your left hand, assuming that you're right-handed. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says we're talking about a left-handed person. So a left-handed person is chayev if he writes with his left hand. But then the Gemara says that Rabbi Yirmiyah, that doesn't really answer the question. Then I'll just ask the same question in reverse. Well, this fellow who's left-handed, so he should be chayev for writing a letter with his left hand. He should be patur for writing a letter with his right hand because it's not normal for him to write with his right hand. Elam Abaye rather says Abaye b'sholed b'shtei yadav. Abaye says it's talking about somebody who's ambidextrous. If you have someone who's ambidextrous, okay, so then he will be chayev for whether he writes with his right hand, whether he writes with his left hand. Although it does sound like, somebody who is, let's say, right-handed would only be chayev for writing with his right hand, whereas somebody who's left-handed would be chayev only for writing with his left hand. That's what it sounds like to me. Rav Yaakov, Bradavas Yaakov. Interesting. Rav Yaakov, the son of the daughter of Yaakov. Amar, he said, Hamani Rav Yossi, to Amar lo chivu shtei osios elim shim roshim. Interesting. So Rav Yaakov, Bradavas Yaakov says, well, our Mishnah that says that you be chayev whether you write with your right hand, whether you write with your left hand, that's actually going like Rabbi Yossi. That, again, Rabbi Yossi said that it's not about writing letters, it's about making marks. And to make a mark, you don't really need to use your right hand or your left hand specifically. You just use whatever hand you want. You just need to make a mark, right? Imagine you're just making a slash across 2 beams so that wherever, if the slash lines up, so then the beams belong next to each other. It doesn't matter really. You don't need to use your right hand or your left hand. It doesn't have to be exact. To write letters, sure, you want to use the hand that you have more control with. But just to make marks, it doesn't really matter. And that's why you'll be chayev whether you make these marks with your right or with your left. The Gemara asks, reisha. But one second. If we read on in the next part of the Mishnah, it says, so, right, it sounds like, well, if Rabbi Yossi voices his opinion in this Mishnah, well, then it sounds like the anonymous part of the Mishnah before that was not Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara answers, Kula Rabbi Yossi. No, actually the entire Mishnah up until that point is also Rabbi Yossi. So the first part of the Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi. The part accredited to Rabbi Yossi is Rabbi Yossi. The next part, Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda, it's not Rabbi Yossi. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda. Now says Rabbi Yehuda, Matzinu, right? So the Mishnah had said that you can even write a smaller word from a larger word. So if you have the word Shimon and you write the word Shem, you'll be chayev because Shem can stand on its own, right? Shin Mem means name. Okay? Ela Rabbi Yehuda shtei osias ve'en shnei shemes hu demechayev. Shtei osias ve'en shem echad lo michayev. But the Gemara asks a kasha. In all of the examples that Rabbi Yehuda provided, the smaller bit of the word were two different letters, right? Shem mishimin. So Shem is Shin Mem. Noach minachor, Nun Ches, right? Gad mi Gadiel, Dan mi Daniel, Gad and Dan. They're all different letters. What if you would write, Shin from Sheshes? Okay? So what if you just write Shin? Would you be chayev for that? Sure, it's shesh, it's the number 6, right? So it's a word, but it's the same letter twice. So the Gemara wants to assume, well, from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda, in all of his examples, they were small words that were two distinct letters. So maybe you're only chayev for two distinct letters. If you write the same letter twice, such as Shin, you would be potter. V'atane, but we learn in a reisha. Here we go. Ve'asa achas. It says in the context of a korban chatas. Ve'asa achas. Well, no, it says ve'asa me achas, right? So, but what the Gemara is saying is that all it had to say was ve'asa achas. If you do a complete milacha, then you'll be chayav a korban chatas, at least in the context of Shabbos. So yochel ad sheyichtov kol hashem, v'achiyarog kol habeged, v'achiyaise kol hanapa. So is it possible, therefore, if it says ve'asa achas, you will do one complete thing? Well, then maybe I will say you're only chayav if you write the entire word that you intended to write. If you were intended to write the word Shimon, so you'll only be chayav if you write mamish the entire word Shimon. If you only write Shem, forget it. You didn't write the entire word. Or maybe you'll have to weave the entire garment. What if you only wove part of it? Would you be chayav? Sounds like not. You'd have to do the entire thing. Or you'd have to make the entire sieve, right? Of course, the way you'd make the sieve is like on a loom, right? You'd have the warp reeds, then you'd have the weft reed that kind of goes up and down, looping between them to make the sieve. Tamlomer me achas. Oh, so the pasuk doesn't say ve'asa achas, rather it says ve'asa me achas, from one, even if it's not a complete one. Im me achas yochel afilu lo kasav ela os achas v'lo oreg el chut echad v'lo asa ela bayis echad benapa. Well, if it's from me'achas, right, from the hole, well then maybe even a tiny bit from the hole. Maybe even if I only wrote one letter, or maybe if I only wove one thread, or I only made like one, let's say, row on a sieve, right? Meaning the smallest possible amount. Maybe I'll be chayav for doing that. Tamlomer achas. Well, that's why it says achas, one, right? No, so in order to be chayav, so you don't have to write the entire thing, you don't have to write the entire word Shimon, but then again, Shin alone wouldn't be enough. You have to write a smaller word from within the larger word. So once you write Shin Mem, where Shin Mem is already a smaller word on its own right, so then you'll, at that point you'll be chayav. But just for writing the letter Shin, you won't be chayav. And he gives examples. Shem Mishimin, Umishmuel, Noach minachor, Dan mi Daniel, Gad mi Gadiel. In all of those cases, so you have like a smaller word from a larger word, but that smaller word can stand on its own. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, all friends. So now says Rabbi Yehuda, Afilu lo kasav el shtei osias v'heim shem echad chayiv. Even if you only write two letters and they on their own is a word, then you'll be chayiv. Kigon, for example, sheish, teis, gag, chach. All of those are two-letter words, and it's a repeat of the same letter, twice. So what Rabbi Yehuda seems to be saying in this reisha is that you're chayav even if the two-letter word is just one letter repeated. The same letter twice. Even in that case, you're going to be chayav. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi v'chi mishum kosev v'hu chayav. What is he chayav for writing? V'aloinu chayav ela mishum roshen. He's not chayav for writing letters. He's chayav for making meaningful marks. Shekin roshmin al karshe mishkan leda ezo hi ben zugo, because they would make marks on the beams so that you'll know which beams go next to each other, which are a pair. Lefichach, therefore, sarat suita achas hashnei nisarin. Therefore, if you make one etch on two boards, oh, interesting. I figured that meant one etch that spans across two boards. That way it's meaningful so that you know that those two boards go together. But I think, but now I'm actually thinking that it means, Kilu, you have two boards and you make one kind of marking, you make kind of like one mark on each of the two boards. Oh, shtei sritos aneser echad. Yeah, that's probably, that's actually probably what it means. Or you make two marks on one board. So the point is that you're making two marks. They don't have to be letters, but marks, right? So if you make one mark on each of two boards, or you make two marks on one board, I think that's probably more accurate. Chayiv. In that case, you're chayiv. Okay, that's already considered. And I guess in the Mishkan, because they would make two marks, I think probably. I've been saying up until now, I think it makes sense, but I don't know that it's necessarily right. But I've been saying up until now that they would necessarily, that they might, like in the Mishkan, they would make like one mark, like that, across the two boards that are next to each other, so you could see if they line up. That might not, now I'm thinking that might not actually be correct. It sounds like maybe they would just make two marks, like, and I think we've seen this in other places as well, that in the Mishkan they would make a mark like on the two boards, one next to the other, to kind of show which ones go together. So that would be one mark on this board, one mark on the next board. So they would actually make two marks, at least two marks in the Mishkan. So here also, on Shabbos, if you make two marks, even though they're not letters, you're going to be chayiv. Okay, fine. Let's move on. Reb Shimon Omer, says Reb Shimon, ve'asa achas, okay, he's going to kind of go through this limud again, right? If you do one thing, yachol at shichtov es kol hashem, at sheyarog kol habeged, at sheyaisa es kol hanapa, maybe you have to write the full name, maybe you have to make the full garment, maybe you have to make the full sieve. Talmud Omer, me'achas, says from one. I me'achas, yachol afilu lo kasav ela os achas, vafilu lo arag ela chut echad, vafilu lo asa ela bais echad benapa. Well, if it says me'achas, from one, maybe it's only if you write one letter, or only weave one thread, or only make one row on the sieve. Talmud Omer, achas, therefore it says achas, one. Hakeitzad, eno chayv achiyaisa melacha shekayotze b'miskayemes. Right, you have to do something that even if it's small, it has to be able to stand in its own right. And that sounds exactly, essentially, like either the Tanakama or Reb Yehuda, right? I mean, there's a limud that we've seen before. The Gemara is going to ask, what exactly is Reb Shimon saying? What makes him unique? Now, Reb Yossi Omer says, Reb Yossi ve'asa achas. So he learns out from this, because Reb Yossi, isn't learning out this whole Shem Mishimon thing, right? So what does he do with this pasuk of, right, me achas, right? He doesn't seem to be learning about, like, if you're writing a larger word and you only write a smaller word, you're going to be chayiv. So what does he do with me achas, with that limud? So Reb Yossi Omer ve'asa achas ve'asa heina. So he's gonna break out that we're gonna go through this limud a bit in a minute. But basically he's saying that you learn out, he's comparing achas to hena, right? Pa'amim shechayv, we've seen this before also, but we're gonna explain it more in a minute, right? Pa'amim shechayv achas al kulan, sometimes you're only gonna be chayiv once for many. Who remembers when you're chayiv once for many? Shegiga Shabbos v'zadim melachos, right? Ufayim shechayv al kol achas v'achas, sometimes you're gonna be chayiv for everything that you do for each one of them, and that is going to be Zad and Shabbos v'shigas melachos, right? We'll get back to there in a minute. New Katani Mia Rabbi Yehuda Omer afilu lo kasav ela shtei osias ve'en shem echad chayev. Friends, okay, that was a long reisha. I know there were lots of different opinions. There was the Tanakama, there was Rabbi Yehuda, there was Rabbi Shimon, there was Rabbi Yossi. Then we started to figure out who learns what. There was a lot going on there. Don't worry, we're going to explain everything. But snap back into it. What was the point of that whole long brisa? The point of the whole long brisa was to say that in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda said, in his examples of the smaller words from the larger words, there were two separate letters. Shem, mi, Shimon, or from Shmuel, Gad, mi, Gadiel, Dan, mi, Daniel, Noach, mi, Nachor, right? All of those small words were two unique letters. However, in this brisa that we just quoted, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that even if it's like Shes, Tes, Rar, Gog, right? It's the same letter twice, you're going to be chayiv. So what's pshat? Are you chayiv for the same letter twice or not? So the Gemara says, Lo kasha. It's no problem. Hadidei hadirabe. It depends if it's his opinion or his teacher's opinion, which is also very interesting. The Tanya, as we learn in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rabbi Gamliel. That's interesting because Rabbi Yehuda's Rebbe was not Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda's Rebbe was Akiva. So it's Rabbi Akiva. So it's interesting that it says that Rabbi Yehuda's Rebbe was Rabbi Gamliel, but at the end of the day, Rabbi Gamliel was older. So I guess it does. I mean, I don't know. Could also refer to him as his Rebbe. Why not? Although it doesn't sound like he was his direct Rebbe. The Tanya, as we learn in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Gamliel, Afilu lo kasav ela beis osios vehein shem echad chayiv kagon shesh tes rar gag chach. So Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Gamliel that even if the two letters are the same, you're going to be chayiv. So therefore, in the Brisa, when Rabbi Yehuda is saying that if you're chayiv even if you write the same two letters twice, that's him quoting Rabbi Gamliel. However, in our Mishnah, when Rabbi Yehuda says that you're chayev if you write two different letters. That's his actual own opinion. Now, Reb Shimon kind of had this like vague opinion in this brayso that we just quoted, right? Remember, we had this like interesting limud, right? Because it says me achas. So the question is like, it could have just said achas, but it says me achas. What do we learn from achas? What do we learn out from the extra mem? So everyone's kind of saying how, like, if you have the me achas, is kind of saying how you have to have a part of a whole. As long as it's meaningful, then you're going to be chayiv. The Tanna Kama had said that it would be two separate letters, something like shin mem. Rabbi Yehuda said they can even be the same letter twice, like gag, gimel gimel. And now Reb Shimon didn't exactly explain himself so well. The Gemara is assuming that he would basically, from that limud, it sounds to me like he's learning the same thing as Rabbi Yehuda, that as long as you have a meaningful word, even if it's the same letters, you're going to be chayiv. So the Gemara wants to know then what's the difference between Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. Reb Shimon hanu Tanna Kama. So the Gemara says Reb Shimon is the same as Tanna Kama. As Rashi points out, the Tanna Kama is really Rabbi Yehuda, meaning the Tana that preceded Reb Shimon, because we're assuming that if you write the same letter twice, you're going to be chayiv, which is Rabbi Yehuda. So anu Tanna Kama, so Reb Shimon is saying the same thing as the Tana quoted before him, which is Rabbi Yehuda. Now v'chitema aleph aleph de azercha ika benayu. If you're going to say, well, the nafkamina between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon, who seem to both be saying that you'd be chayiv if you write the same letter twice, maybe there's a nafkamina. The word azercha, the aleph aleph of azercha. So maybe if I just write aleph aleph from this larger word of azercha, right? So then the Tanna Kama sover aleph aleph de azercha lo michayev. Reb Shimon sover kaven de ise begal ture ba'al machayev. So I don't know why the Gemara is making the assumptions that it's assuming based on who would say what in this breakdown, but the Gemara wants to suggest for now that the nafkamina between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon would be that if you write aleph aleph from a larger word of azercha, would you be chayiv? And the Gemara wants to assume that the Tanna Kama, who's Rabbi Yehuda over here, would say that you'd be potter for writing aleph aleph, whereas Reb Shimon would say you would be chayiv because in these random amulets, not necessarily Jewish amulets, it sounds like specifically amulets associated with witchcraft. In these amulets, they would write just random letters together, such as aleph aleph. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon would say that you'd be chayiv even for just writing aleph aleph from azercha. Now, lemeimra do Rabbi Shimon the chumra. But one second, does that imply that Rabbi Shimon is being machmir over here? But we learn in a brayso, kodeach kolshu chayiv. Somebody who drills even a little bit. Generally, Rashi explains that that you don't necessarily drill all the way through the board that you're drilling to be able to see through the hole to the other side. No, you even just drill a little bit. Chayev. Hamagar kolshu, somebody who drags something a little bit. Hamaybed kolshu, somebody who tans something a little bit. Hatsar bechli tsura kolshu, somebody who etches into a vessel just some small little marking, some small little like drawing. Kazeh. So then you're chayiv in all those cases, even for just doing a little bit. Reb Shimon Omer says Reb Shimon, Achi kadech es kulo. No, you'd have to drill right through the board. Achi yigra es kulo. You'd have to drag, I guess, the entire bench or something like that. Oh, that's interesting. I think I skipped a Rashi. Interesting. Says Rashi, Amagarer klonso, somebody who's dragging like poles. Oh, klefim, or I guess klafim are probably like parchments. Oh, interesting. That would be a tolada of smoothing, because I guess that you're going to be by dragging, or maybe it's like sanding down. Maybe the klafim are like, I don't know if it means parchments or maybe it means like dice or something. Interesting. I missed that Rashi Lemaisa. Okay, but even if I guess you don't smooth out the entire pole. So Reb Shimon would say that in order to be chayiv, you would have to smooth out the entire pole, or if it's dice, then dice. Achi abed es kulo. He says you'd have to tan the entire hide. Achi yatzor kulo, or until you make the entire drawing that you want to make in the kli, the etching that you want to make in the kli. New. So we see in this thing that the Tanna Kama is saying that you're chayiv even for just doing a little bit, whereas Reb Shimon says that you're chayiv only if you do the entire thing. So Reb Shimon is being the one that's more makel. So it wouldn't make sense to say that when it comes to writing, the Tanna Kama it says that you're potter for aleph aleph, but Reb Shimon would say that you're chayiv. So what's the difference between the Tanna Kama and Reb Shimon? So Ella Reb Shimon this is what Reb Shimon is coming to let us know. You have to write the entire word. You're only chayiv if you write the entire word. You have to write the entire word Shimon. Can you really say this? But one second, Reb Shimon went through his whole thought process, which was that the pasuk says me'achas, right? So is it possible you have to write the entire thing? No, it says me'achas, even a smaller amount. Even just part of the word you'd be chayiv. So why are you saying that according to Reb Shimon you have to write the entire word? Tritz ve'mach, you rather say like this, Yachol at sheyichtov es a pasuk kulo, tamlo me'achas. No, say that Reb Shimon's limud is like this, that when it says me'achas, well, if it only said achas, I would think you'd have to write the entire pasuk. So it says me'achas to say that even just one word you'd be chayiv, but you'd have to write the entire word, okay? So as the Tana comment, whereas the very first Tana in that reisha says you'd have to write, 2 letters from words, like Shem from Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda said even if it's just the same letter twice, such as Sheish from Sheishes. Now Reb Shimon says you'd have to write the entire word. Fine. Now moving on. Rabbi Yossi Omer, so we had the end of that brisa had said that Rabbi Yossi says ve'asa achas ve'asa hena. Okay, now that pasuk by a korban chatas says ve'asa me'achas me'hena. So the point is that you really only needed to write ve'asa achas, or all you needed to write was ve'asa hena, right? Meaning it could have just said ve'asa achas and dropped the entire word mehena. You don't need the word mehena at all, and you also don't need the mem in achas. In me'achas, right? You literally just need to write ve'asa achas. The extra mem there is extra. You don't need it. The whole word mehena, also extra. You don't need it. Or it could have said ve'asa hena, and you don't need the mem from mehena. Or you could argue that, and you can argue that you don't need the entire me'achas. All you need is ve'asa hena, right? So what's the deal with ve'asa me'achas mehena? Why the extra mem? Why the extra complete word? What's going on? So therefore, Rabbi Yossi Omer ve'asa achas ve'asa hena. So we learn now from ve'asa achas and ve'asa hena, right? The extra achas and the extra hena. What do you learn? Sometimes you'll only be chayiv one korban chatas for doing lots of stuff, right? Such as, of course, shigig Shabbis v'zadim melachis. Sometimes you're going to be chayiv for everything that you did, such as if it is Zadon Shabbos v'shigigas melachos. Now we're going to explain this. Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, my time with Rabbi Yossi. What's pshat with Rabbi Yossi? How do we understand this? So it says achas me'achas, hena mehena. Right? What's the deal with writing achas? What's the deal with writing me'achas, hena mehena? What's the deal? So achas she hena, behena she achas. Right? So you have achas which is hena, hena which is achas, which we're going to explain in a minute. Now we say achas and me'achas. So achas is Shimon. If you write the entire word Shimon, me'achas shem mi Shimon. Even if you write shem from Shimon. Oh, interesting. So then shouldn't Rabbi Yossi then say that you would be chai for shem mi Shimon? Oh, that's weird. Rabbi Yossi said that you're not chai for shem mi Shimon. You're only chai for like etchings. Interesting. Huh. I don't know. That's weird. Okay. Hena is avos. Mehena is tolados. So hena is the avos. Mehena is the tolados. Okay. And then achas she hena, right? When you, do one thing, but you be chayiv many times. That's Zadon Shabbos, when you know Shabbos of Shigas Melachos, you don't realize that these are Melachos. Hena she achas, and when you have, you do one thing, but you do lots of stuff, but you only be chayiv once. It's Shigas Shabbos with Zadon Melachos, when you don't realize it's Shabbos, but you do know that these are all Melachos. Then when you realize it's Shabbos, you only be chayiv one for all the things that you did. Okay, that's how he learns it. Wait a second. So then, what's pshat with Rabbi Yossi? So why is Rabbi Yossi then saying that you're even chayiv if you just write 2 etchings? So why is he learning out from me'achas me'ena from me'achas shem mishimon? I thought he doesn't learn that. So maybe he doesn't learn out from the shem mishimon. Maybe he only learns out because at the end of the day, all Rabbi Yossi said in the brisa was Rabbi Yossi Omer ve'asa achas ve'asa hena. Maybe the point is that he only holds of that part. He's not learning from the me'achas me'ena. The other people are learning from me'achas shem mishimon. He doesn't learn that. Maybe he just only learns from the achas and hena, the shigas melachos zadon Shabbos and shigas Shabbos zadon melachos. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, maybe that's pshat. Maybe he only learns of that part, and then the other people learn from the other part. Interesting. I don't know. All right, so let's do a recap. Okay, daf kuf gimel. Fine, so we started off with drilling a hole, right? We said, so I understand according to Rav, who says that putting holes in chicken coops, you're chayiv for bona. So here also drilling, you're chayiv for bona. What about according to Shmuel, who says that you'd be chayiv for makah b'patish? This is a makah b'patish because you're going to have to fill in the hole afterwards. So Shmuel says, yeah, but it's talking about where you drove a nail in there, and therefore you're leaving the nail, so there's nothing else that needs to be done. Fine. Then we talk about knocking on an anvil. Well, why are you chayiv for knocking on an anvil? What are you doing? So Rabban Rav Yossi said, well, you're practicing. But then they asked the kasha, what do you mean? But then if you just watch somebody and you learn that way, and you're essentially learning something new, you're practicing, so then you should be chayiv for just watching somebody. So Abai and Rava say that it's talking about in the Mishkan when they would make these gold sheets to cover the krushim, so they would hit 3 times on the gold and then hit once just on the anvil to smoothen out the hammer, and that's why you're chayiv for hitting on an anvil in the context of your work. Cool. Then we got to weeding, right? And we said that if you remove these reeds and eat them, so then the shear would be a grogaris, and if it's for the animals, then it's kimlo pidi. If it's for burnings, then it's laaseka. But if it's to prune, so then it's a kolshu. So the kasha was, well, aren't you always going to be pruning? Aren't you always going to be improving the field? So Rabbi and Rav Yosef said, well, it's talking about a swamp where improving a swamp is really pointless. Abaye said something interesting, which is that it's actually talking about a field, and you are improving the field, but it's your friend's field. And because it's your friend's field, even though it's a psik reisha, it's a psik reisha de lo nikha. And my understanding is that should essentially be like a melacha she'nesuicha legufa, which Reb Shimon says you're potter. Fine. And then we got into writing. We said that you're chayiv, both of you write with your right hand or with your left hand. But why should you be chayiv for writing with your left hand if you're right-handed, or vice versa if you're left-handed? So Abaye said, the Mishnah is talking about somebody who's ambidextrous, which I think implies that, but if you're right-handed, so you'd only be chayiv for writing with your right hand. With your left hand, it would be pater avalasam mistam. Rav Yaakov Bradabas Yaakov says that, well, the entire Mishnah up until that point is just Rav Yossi, who says that it's not about writing specific letters, it's just about making etches, and you can make etches with, you can just make marks with either hand. Then we talk about what's the minimum amount that you'd be chayiv for writing, okay? So we have this thing of me achas, right? Even if you write part of a word, right? But if it's a small word, so you will be chayiv. So, Tanakama / Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that if you write, like Shem Mishimo, Noach Minachor, if you write a smaller word from a larger word, so if you intended to write the larger word, but you already wrote the smaller word, so then you'll be chayav, when it's 2 separate letters. Then we have Rabbi Yehuda in this brisa who's saying the name of Rabbi Gamliel, that even if it's the same letter, you're going to be chayav. Rabbi Shimon says it would be one whole word, and Rabbi Yossi says even if it's just markings. Well, anyways, friends, that was Daf Kuf Gimel. I think it was a pretty interesting Daf. Hope everybody enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace.